so you can hear me scream and yell.
All right, so we're 5 seconds.
5 seconds.
Three, two, one. Okay, start streaming, everyone.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Dynamo track of the first annual Venture Houston Pitch Competition. My name is Stephanie Campbell and I am the Managing Director of the Houston Angel Network and the co-founder of the Artemis Fund. I'm going to quickly introduce our judges for today. We have off screen in the background, Gordon Doherty of the Capital Factory, Brett Brewer of Crosscut VC, and Dan Kerr of Flyover Capital. On the screen today, we have a panel of expert judges representing investment and prizes that include Maria Maso-baMa, Jeff Carnrite of Carnrite Ventures, Allison Piper-HAN of the Houston Angel Network, and Diana Murakhovskaya of the Artemis Fund. We've got 10 pitches this afternoon with a quick break after pitch 5. We'll have the entrepreneurs in the room and sharing their screen for 5-minute pitches and then 7 minutes of Q&A by our panel of expert judges. After each 5-minute presentation, I'll ask that the entrepreneurs take down their screen so that we can have the panel of judges up on the screen to ask questions with the entrepreneur. Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started so we can stay on time with Bondwell Technologies. David, go ahead and start sharing your screen. All right.
Does that look good?
Looks good. Take it away.
Sorry, it's not. There it goes.
There you go.
Thank you very much. Sorry about that. David Howell, Bondwell Technologies. Really excited to share with you all today. I was looking back and thinking about this last year, and it was a rough year, I know, for everybody in lots of different ways. But when you look at what happened on a biotechnology level, it was really an incredible year. You real quickly were able to identify a vaccine target for a novel virus. You were able to use cutting edge tools, in this case, mRNA, package it in a nanodrop delivery system, and deliver it to people on a record scale. We took a process that normally takes 3 to 5 years and did it in under a year. And we now have a vaccine, multiple vaccines out there available. And that's really where the first time you've seen a lot of technologies rapidly come together to deliver a product. And that's where we see ourselves as Bondwell Technology is one of these applied tools that we hope will be able to impact many different sectors through our unique protein-based biocompatible material. What we have is a protein that self-assembles into a material. On the left-hand side there, you can see it in its fiber form. We also generate films and membranes with it. And it has some unique characteristics from a mechanical standpoint, but what makes it really unique is that you can take another protein with a specific function and add it to our protein on the genetic level. And that function of that appended protein is incorporated into the material. So this is a real simple demonstration using emcee. The fiber now for us is red. You can also do it with GFP and make it turn green. But so far we've tried 50 different proteins of all different kinds of structures and charges and things like that. And every single one of them has worked. And by that, I mean it brings along its function. So you now have any biological function you can think of working inside of a material. When we started this company several years ago, we were fortunate enough to do NSF I-Corps program, which gives you $50,000 to take a technology coming out of a university and figure out what the best market is, where you should start. And we quickly identified several targets in the drug manufacturing space, several components of drug manufacturing that use protein-based applications, and we feel like we can disrupt what is currently being done. So we founded the company with a $800,000 seed round just to get us going, develop some of the platform, license out the technology from Texas A&M University. And then we used grant funds to fund each specific application within drug manufacturing. And so we now have 4 different applications in development at various stages, obviously. Each one supported by a grant, hopefully to continue on with phase 2, and some of the other ones are extension grants like with Fujifilm. And so this gives us multiple markets, multiple sectors that we can impact. The two there that have a dash with the larger market is those opportunities allow us to expand beyond drug manufacturing in the future into much bigger, broader markets with basically the same application of our technology. Our exit strategy is not to manufacture and sell each one of these applications ourselves, but to license them out to current players in the field that are much better suited at that aspect. We'll just simply develop it to a certain point, show that it works, and then start looking for partners to license to. And you could see this as a drug manufacturing portfolio for the 4 projects we currently have. And as each one hits, you're able to then reinvest those funds into growth of the whole platform and go after much bigger and challenging long-term, long runway applications for this technology. So of course, what is most important to us, what our funds are primarily going toward is the intellectual property portfolio because of our exit strategy of licensing out. We currently have 5 applications and then an issued patent on the core material. And then we use a combination of trade secrets and patents to build a portfolio. Our team is managed by myself. I was a postdoc in the lab that developed this technology. Dr. Sarah Bondos invented it at Texas A&M. She currently serves as our CSO. And then Christy is an experienced bio-entrepreneur who now is our director of R&D. And Ken is an expert in achieving scale and automation so that we have a way of manufacturing our product at scale, even though we don't intend at this point to do that. And then we have a strong advisory board with mentors for each specific application, but also people experienced in bio-entrepreneurship in general as well. I'll stop sharing my screen, I think he said.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. All right, I'm going to turn it over to our Q&A panel for questions.
Yeah, thanks so much, David. I'd love to know how many rounds of funding or dollars you're going to need in order to get to that licensing piece of it.
That's a great question. I think it depends how early we want to exit on each one. Some of them are a lot longer runway than others, and there's a strategy to build more toward that portfolio as opposed to one individual one. We think that the protein A, the antibody purification system, we could get away with one more round and that would be ready to exit, but there's an argument to go a little longer. So right now I don't want to commit to one thing, but that's kind of our thought process at this stage.
Jeff, you look like you got a question to ask.
Yeah, I do. David, question on back to the maybe the four core use cases that you guys are immediately pursuing. Can you help us understand basically how many different licensing agreements would you have to get in place to really move the needle, and maybe just talk about the economic structure of each of those?
Yeah, it's a good question. They're obviously all a little different depending on which one of those sectors you pick, but the endotoxin removal and antibody purification are pretty similar. You would probably want to license almost exclusively to one large player. A good example of that would be Millipore or Sartorius or Paul. You could argue that it would be better to not do exclusive and try and, yeah, I think they're going to want to do an exclusive deal for those. And then the other ones like biocatalysis, that's going to be a lot of smaller license deals because they're going to be more based on individual needs of different companies. And there you're targeting all of biopharma that have specific enzymes that they're using in their manufacturing process for their drug. So it gets a little complex with which one specifically you're talking about down the road. So we are looking at multiple license deals as we move forward. I don't know if that answered your question well enough, but.
Yeah, that's helpful. Could you maybe just provide like a ballpark estimate for what the contract value for each one of those would be? I'm just trying to get a feel for like how many licensing agreements you would need to get in place.
Yeah, I think for the big ones, that they're, I showed several different market sizes, and if you simply took the license at a rough 10% at this point for the 3 that are in drug manufacturing, I think if you did an exclusive license on that, you're looking in that ballpark of what the total market value is. Whereas the biocatalysis one is a little trickier. You're looking at very small, more volume type license deal.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
David, from my side, Maria from BAMA. I would like to hear more about your competitors for each of these streams. So which ones are your main competitors and which one is your position in the market for them?
The main competitors for almost all of these are large companies that are currently already in this space of components for purification, affinity chromatography, filtration in bioprocessing. And that would be GE Health or Sartorius or Paul or Millipore or Repligen are the top 5 probably for those fields.
Awesome. Final question from Allison.
Yeah, David, are you doing a raise right now? Do you actually have an offer out?
It's not open right now. It will be open very soon.
Can you tell us more about the details? What do you anticipate you'll be raising?
That's a great question. I'm waiting on several different deals that are all supposed to come together in the next week. And so setting terms right now is a little premature because our valuation could change pretty rapidly in the next 2 weeks. And by that, I mean, we have phase 2s that we should know any day now. And then we have some deals with Fujifilm and several other companies in the works to help develop the current application. So in a couple of weeks, when I know all those details, I'll have a much better idea of what the terms look like and what we're looking at doing. I can't say we are looking at about a $1.5 million raise.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, David, for that wonderful presentation. And thank you, judges, for those questions. Next up, we've got a presentation from CaseCTRL. Pamela Singh, are you here? All right, yeah, if you can let her in, that will be incredible. She can go ahead and get her screen up. Thank you, David. I hope you'll stay to watch the rest of the presentations.
Thank you very much.
All right. I see Pamela has entered the room.
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great.
You want to go ahead and see if you can share your screen?
Of course. And can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for having me here today. I am Pamela Singh, CEO and co-founder of CaseCTRL. And CaseCTRL's SaaS surgery management platform automates surgical workflows to increase case revenue and reduce costly patient complications. So what if I told you that your surgical team was not prepared for your surgery and that teams are scrambling behind the scenes looking for the right tools after the first cut has been made? 35% of patients and staff are inadequately prepared for surgery, increasing complications, recovery time, and cancellations. And studies show that this leaves up to $500K of surgical revenue per year per surgeon on the table. And this is because surgical planning entangles the surgeon, scheduler, and stakeholders in an inefficient paper-based coordination process, which uses scans, email, and even fax outside the electronic medical record, or EMR. And surgeons struggle to communicate their complex surgery preferences, such as special implants, tools, and recovery plans, one missed detail can lead to a canceled surgery costing about $7,100. So as an orthopedic surgeon and engineer, our co-founder, Dr. Ashwin Dewan, experienced these pains and created an app to streamline his scheduling process. And it wasn't until his administrators approached him and asked, how is your practice more efficient than the others, that the commercialization potential really dawned. So introducing CaseCTRL, the cloud-based surgical management platform that simplifies the collaborative HIPAA-compliant dashboards, track patients, and prevent any from slipping through the cracks, especially now during COVID. So what's the net result? Up to $300K more in annual collections per surgeon, or $15 million per enterprise. And this is due to the 20% increase in surgical volume, over 250 surgeon hours were claimed, and less time to schedule surgery. Now, most of our competitors focus on day of surgery cancellations, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's significant missed opportunity in capturing surgical candidates lost earlier in the scheduling process. And by beginning in the clinic where the surgical journey begins, CaseCTRL ensures that no patient is left behind. One clinic thought that they only lost 6% of surgical candidates who weren't making it to the operating table, but CaseCTRL showed that they were losing 20 to 25% of surgical candidates. And that's a lot of revenue left on the table. So competitors like SurgiMate and CaseTabs, have creative tools for schedulers, but to truly maximize efficiency, we need to consider the most expensive resource in the surgery process, which is the surgeon. So CaseCTRL is designed for surgeons by surgeons. We're a SaaS platform for surgeons and teams offering 3 tiers of service, billed annually from $3,600 to $7,000 per surgeon, and boosting surgical volume by just one case actually pays for our yearly license. And we're starting with the 30,000 orthopedic surgeons in the US with an ITAM of 108 million, and then expanding across all subspecialties with a TAM of 3.6 billion. Now, government mandate is also changing surgery reimbursement from fee-for-service to a bundled payment model, which we believe will accelerate the adoption of CaseCTRL as well. And we currently have 8 implementations across the US with 3 more in the pipeline. We're targeting our ideal customer user profile of individual orthopedic surgeons in private practices with up to 10 surgeons. And then surgeon champions help us strategically advocate for full practice implementations. Now, we are bootstrapped to date and are currently raising a 500K seed round to achieve 1 million ARR by onboarding 230 surgeons with runway through 2022, and we plan to achieve 12 million ARR by 2025. Now, we have a strong team in place with over 4 decades of experience in healthcare and tech. My background is in systems engineering, operational efficiency, and healthcare IT management. Dr. Dewan is both the engineer and practicing orthopedic surgeon with a unique understanding of our users. And our CTO, Sachi Roy, is a computer scientist with experience scaling software. And finally, we recruited our first advisory board member, Dr. Jay Khanna, director of orthopedic surgery at Johns Hopkins. And together we envision CaseCTRL driving the delivery of personalized surgical care. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. And I can
Thank you, Pamela.
Thanks, Pamela. That was really great.
Yeah.
I'd love to know who on your team or who you're thinking as a hire that has experience on the sales side of things.
Great question. So we are currently planning on, first, we are reaching out to orthopedic surgeons, and that will be Dr. Dewan, who really connects with orthopedic surgeons, speaks their language, and we found good traction with that because we found a lot of orthopedic surgeons or surgeons in general don't like to talk to salespeople as much. There isn't a lot of buy-in. So once we start scaling and we, have a more defined sales cycle and process, we envision bringing on another salesperson with healthcare experience. So initially, Dr. Dewan will make the introductions, or me if we know the orthopedic surgeons or other surgeons personally, and then we'll bring in the sales team to kind of take it from there.
May you talk more about your exit strategy, please? And thank you so much. Very good presentation.
Oh, thank you. Yes, our exit strategy, we hope to first grow the company and really show the value that we bring to surgeons. And then approximately when we have about 12 million ARR in 2025, we will, I think, be more interesting for people to acquire us, and that would be other EMRs. Now there's a push for EMRs to become more cloud-based, and because we're a cloud-based app, they might be wanting to acquire us. Another potential acquirer would be practice management consultant firms who try to increase efficiencies amongst doctors' practices. And finally, any healthcare business intelligence tools, because we have a lot of data and it's going to be our proprietary data, so unidentifiable data that we'll have control of, that healthcare business analytics companies can make use of as well. So those are 3 potential acquirers for our exit.
Also, I think you had a question.
A question about just operationally how it works with the other providers. Can you talk to me some about how you make it easy for the other providers necessary for the surgery to be involved in accessing the system, and how it differentiates from yet another platform that everyone has to log into?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. So what we want to do is we want to provide minimal disruption to the current process. There's different types of surgery scheduling processes at different clinics, whether it's a hospital, a small private practice, or a surgeon doing a solo practice. And what we do is the only people who actually log in, it's a web-based app. So all you need is to open a browser window on your computer, which already has an EMR opened up, an iPhone or iPad or a tablet. And the only people who log in is the surgery scheduler and the surgeon. And when the surgeon logs in, he or she only uses it for, we try to get it down to 3 clicks instead of 30 minutes. It takes them 10 seconds to do what they need to do, and then they're done. And the other people, stakeholders who are in the process, such as the vendors, the anesthesia providers, and patients, they receive automated messages based on the practice's preferences. Like, hey, we want to send this in a fax format to here. This ambulatory surgical center who we operate at accepts formats in only email, so send it there. So we really made sure to become customizable so we can integrate into their process and increase adoption that way, because people don't like change.
Hey, Pamela, it's Jeff Carnrite. Good to see you again.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Hey, question for you on your sales strategy. Basically, when you look at really the 3 different customers that you're selling to, whether it be a newer practice with 1 or 2 surgeons versus kind of the intermediate scale practice versus like a larger enterprise, I imagine they have different sales cycles, one, but also the decision maker within those organizations might be different. So I'm curious how you guys frame the value prop differently to those different customers, and what the feedback has been so far, because I imagine they're 3 very different customers.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. So first we were approaching just hospitals, but we found that the sales cycle for hospitals can be very long, about 18 months. And so in the meantime, we wanted to grow our traction. So we switched to small private practices, and our value proposition for them is first, they increase their surgical revenue by the number of cases, and new surgeons are really trying to build that patient base. So if they have an organized clinic, that helps increase their number of patients that they have. And for hospitals, the more surgeries that a surgeon does, the more revenue and the hospital makes for the bottom line. And for each canceled surgery that a hospital has, it costs them about $7,100. So we reduced cancellations by 20%. And that's one of the value propositions that we provide to them. Another value proposition is that we're, scalable. So first we do phase 1 where we just bring on 1 or 2 surgeons, and we don't need to integrate. So there is less of a commitment. We show our value, and then we bring on the rest of the practice. So just because we're doing phase 1 with 2 surgeons, it means we can actually bring on 10 surgeons later and grow integration that way.
I have a quick follow-up on differentiation. Just, you mentioned that other systems don't really think of the surgeon. Can you give some examples of what your system does that?
Yeah, sure. So currently, different surgeons, let's say they're doing one type of knee surgery. Well, different surgeons have trained at different facilities. So they don't just use a hammer, they use their own standard Hammer brand, and they use their own implant vendors that they have relationships with. And they have their own documentation requirements for what they want patients to do after surgery. And currently this is all manually written out. So if you multiply that by 30 different types of surgeries that they do, the details can get confusing very quickly. So our tool is an AI-based tool, and it puts their preferences in a cloud repository, and it auto-fills everything for them. So they just have 3 clicks and they can do quick picks on their surgery, and they don't have to think about it or communicate. It just automatically, all the data is available to their team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have time for about one more question. Pamela, you mentioned the EMR. I'm curious, are you currently plugged into any existing EMRs, and what does that process look like?
Yes, another great question. So we're currently serving as standalone systems in all of our 8 implementations, but there is the opportunity to integrate with the EMR. We wanted to provide our value without the integration first. And we don't do the EMR integration directly. We go through a third party called Redox, and this is their bread and butter. They have done over 1,000 integrations, over 150 integrations with Epic already. So we leave our engineers and our teams to really focus on the surgeons and the process, because EMR integration, as you might know, it's a behemoth of a problem. So we work with Redox to integrate, and that can be done as little as 2 weeks.
Thank you. Any last questions from the judges?
Yeah, I have a follow-up.
Yeah.
Pamela, I'm curious how I think you mentioned you guys have 8 current implementations. Is that right? How are those going, and what's the feedback been from pilot customers so far?
They're going well, thank you. And they should, we have more in the pipeline. What we found is from surgery schedulers, the feedback is that it's great. It saves them it takes about 75% less time to do everything in terms of their workflow. For surgeons, we found that we're already saving them and bringing them in additional 2 cases per month. And in terms of administrators, now they have the pipeline and they have a dashboard where they can get reports. So it's helping them understand where there are gaps in the practice's care and where they need to focus more on patient care to retain more of their surgical candidates. So it's been positive. And any feedback that they've given, such as for UI implementation, we've been able to put in as well.
You know, quick, Stephanie, I don't know that we covered if you have an offer currently, Pamela. Do you have a raise open?
Yes, we have currently our seed raise open. We were bootstrapped until now. We're raising 500K, and of which we have 200 pledged.
Do you have a lead investor already?
Pardon?
Do you have a lead investor?
No, we do not. We just have angel investors, and we have 2 of the investors are our users. 2 surgeon users are going to invest as well.
That's great. Awesome. Thank you so much, Pamela.
Well, thank you. Have a good one.
You.
You too. All right. Next up, we've got Cinevva. Will be presented by Mariana. Mariana, I think that you're here.
I am, yes. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Could you go ahead and turn on your camera and share your screen?
Sure.
Awesome.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. So you'll have 5 minutes to present. And once you're done presenting, we'll ask that you pull down your screen, and then we'll have 7 minutes of Q&A from our panel of judges. So
Okay.
We're just, a couple minutes ahead of time, but you can go ahead and get started.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Mariana Muntean, and I am the CEO of Cinevva. I'm really honored to have the chance to talk about VO today. We are building a no-code platform and an ecosystem to help creatives without technical skills build video games and interactive content without knowing how to code, bringing to life the characters without knowing how to script or how to animate, and without being an actual developer. I would like to introduce our team. Our team has years of experience in game development, software, deep tech, and software for video games and SaaS. as creatives, we feel the same pains as our fellow friends in the industry. And I started Cinevva to make sure that technology works in the hands of different backgrounds of creatives, not only AAA studios. And I would like to make sure that creativity, we believe that creativity is not a luxury and should be allowed, should be available for everyone. Personally, I have 15 years expertising teams, and I'm also a game artist building content. I won Brand of the Year awards for excellent results for the companies I worked previously. Oleg here is our CTO and AI architect. He has previously sold his startups to IBM, and he worked on state-of-the-art conversational technologies that we are all using in our daily lives today. Lance here from Versus Evil in Dallas. It's a game studio that specializes and specifically helps teams and creatives that are coming from the independent background. He has successfully launched over 26 titles. And Eric has over 30 years of experience in IT and has helped early stage startups exit successfully. So we also have a team, a very small team of developers in Ukraine. They have previously worked on Storyfire. So now on to the problem. Developing video games is hard. It's hard for a professional, but you can imagine how difficult this could be for a beginner. It mainly boils down to a steep learning curve, and it boils down to juggling too many tools or lack of experience, lack of marketing budgets, and big teams. So just to get a little bit of intro, the game development tools industry is divided into between Unreal and Unity, two main game engines that dominate the market, and it only targets the highly skilled user. So think of Adobe or Photoshop for designers or professionals, but this time for video games. Currently, in the $159 billion gaming industry, there is no code solutions. So we are here to change that. Onto the how we're gonna Veo makes it easy to build video games as it integrates with developer tools as a SaaS platforms, and it works as an overlay and capitalizes on what it already exists. It is for a wide range of developers and users, publishing maybe 1 to 2 games on Steam or other platforms, or for someone who doesn't have too much experience in the industry and just dreams about putting an idea into a visual novel. The secret sauce lies, of course, in our AI-powered features. Using AI, machine learning, and statistics, image recognition, we make magic. We automate routine and error-prone tasks. It allows animating characters without knowing how to animate. It allows you or the user to paint with smart brushes that only become smarter the more you paint. It allows putting together quick levels, and if you're familiar with Super Mario Maker 2, just like that. And in the end, the user is able to build a video game end-to-end, either integrated with the existing engines or in its own browser. Last year, we have been quite busy. We have completed and went through Founders Institute, the Accelerator, and the Fundraising Lab. And we have also built our prototype within the Mozilla Builders Incubator. And we, after 280, out of 280 companies that have participated, we have been selected to win the Winners of Mozilla Award. And we have developed, we think there's a really huge fit for us in the education. So we definitely partnered with Texas Venture Labs, and we are building this startup with the community, with the brightest and talented of the Texas education system to develop a good product market fit and to test some of our features early on. We have also initiated partnerships with the game engines, and they have admitted that the complexities of their tools is preventing them from reaching our target audience, which is Veo target audience. So Before we even started building the prototype, we have put up Trello game boards, and we have seen a lot of unique clones and people adopting those for their own projects. And we have our own 300, more than 300 emails on the mailing list waiting for us to release the beta publicly. And on top of that, we have already started to test our features with 5 beta test users. I have started this company to make the lives of creatives better. I want to help all backgrounds to experience what the thrill and the power of telling a story in an interactive way is. We believe that creativity should not be a luxury. It should be a tool in the hands of the people, working for the people, and not vice versa. We are raising $750,000 to cover 16 months of operations to continue to build our team, to develop the AI and machine learning features, and to put this in the hands of as many people as possible. VIA will generate $300 million at the end of 2025 with over 1 million paying subscribers, and it will evolve into an ecosystem. Thank you. So I'm welcoming any questions.
Mariana, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. I remember James Phelan inviting me to mentor at Founders Institute 2 years ago. And you did your initial presentation. So happy to see you here and all the progress that you've made. Now I'm going to open it up to the judges. To
so humble.
Questions. Questions from the judges.
Hi, Mariana. Great presentation. Thanks so much. I'd love to, I know you're still looking at product market fit, but I'd love to hear your sort of gut thought on expanding on which subset of the creatives will be your target market, and what use cases outside of, just the love of video games they'll be building for.
So as I mentioned, it ranges from, we will definitely go into people who have a little bit more experience in the beginning, and then we'll move into putting this in the hands of as a wider audience. So the tech artists, the creatives that are painting and creating different assets for illustrations, the students, the graduates from game track universities. And we're thinking we have about 15,000 people who will be able to use it immediately.
Great.
Mariana, can you talk to me a little bit about the, what's really preventing other companies from coming in and copying your model? And then how take that model and work with your customers to production. I mean, how does the revenue model work as they would create a game and then move it into production?
So we offer end-to-end solutions, building on top of what already is. So you, the platform itself will not be limiting you. If you are more advanced, then you'll be able to customize some of the assets going forward into Unity or Unreal. But at this stage, we have talked to those game engines. They are not in the same model because they have admitted that in our own, it's politics, it's big companies, and they're already switching to capturing other industries. They go beyond game development. They go and reach out to automotive, to film industries. They are more into B2B kind of solutions. So first, and second, we have a different business model. We strongly believe there is a huge potential in the indie and beginners developer. We have talked to we did customer interviews. We have talked to our friends in the industry, our professors at the SMU Guildhall and UT of Austin, and they all are looking for this solution to happen. Because, like, for example, we're all familiar with Google Docs and how it works and how it real-time synchronizes the changes in the documents between the teams or two people. That is not available for Unity or Unreal or other engines at the moment. It's our really secret sauce, and it's a complex solution that we are able to tackle with our team. Another way is to put this is them preventing to enter this market is a great question, because they have written some codes and the code of the engines over 16 to 20 years ago. Today, it's too expensive for them to do this. They rely, even the business model of those marketplaces, they rely on third-party tools like us to optimize their ecosystem. Have I answered the question?
Yeah, I think you gave me a good direction on your view of the market, that most of the competitors just aren't looking at going into this business model yet. And my question might have been a little confusing on the second part, which was, you know, if someone uses your platform and they create a game, do they then, you know, how does revenue flow between them and you as it moves into production and they're selling the game and people are using the game? Or is there not a relationship?
It's a brilliant question. Thank you for clarifying. Yes, we will be capitalizing on everything that the user has on the clouds they already built. So if they are a Unity customer, we will only empower and support that. On top of that, they will be paying our pricing model, which is $15 per user and $25 per team.
So may I have a follow-up question? So I didn't understand really the revenue streams that you have. So you have subscription pricing model per user, but I understand that this is in production, right? So as soon the video game is in the market, then the end user paid for that subscription as well? No, right?
The end user, the one who so we do have 2 or 3 even revenue streams. First, the subscriptions, yes, but we leverage on the cloud of the user. So if the user is a Unity subscriber, he'll continue using that, and he'll continue to pay the royalty if he gets to a certain point of his game in revenues. That is not going to, using VO is not going to prevent from the user from doing that. On top of that, we're building our own marketplace that will allow the creatives to submit their own content so that the ecosystem is growing on its own. And the difference between what we do and what other people do is that we don't keep people on our platform. We let them go back and forth and bridge them with Unity, with Unreal, with other platforms. We let them stay open. We democratize it.
Awesome. We've got time for one more question. Jeff?
Yes, I have one. Mariana, do you view this as always being direct-to-consumer play, or do you think there's some fit for product teams within certain organizations where maybe there's a different use case for a no-code platform like this and perhaps a different revenue model for you? But I'm curious, like if there's a point where the technology and the no-code platform itself becomes large enough to where you could move it to an enterprise.
Yes, and that is the specialty of our Oleg, who is an enterprise solutions person. We are looking into enterprise plans and releasing different sets of plugins and APIs for third parties or bigger companies, and also with cloud integration with cloud solutions. So we definitely see that in a year or so to get to a different level of our business model. And that's something that we're also researching right now with the UT McCombs Business School at the UT.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mariana. Next up, we've got Michael with Connectus.
Great pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you. Good luck to everyone. Thank you.
Good luck to you as well. Awesome. Okay, so if we can have Michael into the room, we can have him start sharing his screen. Michael, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Hi there.
How's it going?
Welcome.
Thank you.
If you can go ahead and start sharing your screen, that would be great.
Okay.
You've got a whole setup there.
I am. I got the whole thing going. You should see what's going on behind here, but I realized how terrible I look on camera at the start of the pandemic. So I decided to invest a little.
Awesome. All right, well, you've got 5 minutes for your presentation. Once you're done, if you could please pull down the presentation, share a screen, and then we'll have 7 minutes of Q&A with our judges. So we're right on time if you want to go ahead and get started.
Alrighty. Well, thank you very much and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Anderson, and I'm the CEO and founder of Connectus Global. They say necessity is the essence of all invention. Before we get started, I'd like to tell you a bit of a personal story of what led to the formation of Connectus, and as well as what set me on this journey. In 2011, I was working in an underground longwall mine in Australia in the Bowen Basin. Having 3 trade tickets myself, I'm a steam fitter, pipe fitter, a boilermaker, and a welder. I spent a lot of time underground, and I was doing a maintenance on some roof supports, and one of my friends, Gary, was working on the shear behind me. I heard a sound that at the time sounded like somebody threw a handful of change against a steel wall. When I turned around from my task, I saw Gary's boots go over the top of the drum, and that put his body through an 1.5 inch crack, killing him in front of me. After that, I got together with some of the development team at P&H Mine Pro, and we started to sew RFID chips into people's coveralls and put a proximity sensor on the drum so that as you approach the drum, it shuts off. That solution is now patented and sold globally as part of the standard safety infrastructure of longwall technology. That was the start of my journey in the technology space. There are 2 main tenets that form our company. The first is safety, the second being productivity. We provide 3 suites of product offerings. One is our real-time location system, the other electronic permit to work, and the third being a digital health passport. After a few years of R&D, we founded Connectus Global in 2018. We hang our hat on ultra-wideband technology and enterprise-level SaaS solutions. In the first year, we were able to achieve $800,000 in revenue. We're on track to hit our numbers at $3.6 million at the end of our second fiscal year, which is April 30th. We have a global white labeling agreement with Honeywell. We make up about 75% of their digitized workforce management portfolio. We have a $3 million priced round currently on a $9 million pre-money valuation and a signed term sheet with our first close already completed. Our fast growth can be distributed to a great selection of partners, great customers, and a growing market. Ultra-wideband brings incredible amounts of accuracy and latency, and is one of the reasons why they use the same ultra-wideband chips that we install in our devices in all of the iPhones 11 and up. So we use the same device to drive our location services as the iOS devices, same chip. With our focus on safety and productivity, we see energy, mining, and industrial markets growing, especially in North America, to overtake over the next 2 years some of the legacy tracking technologies like RFID and like Bluetooth because of this high level of precision. Some key items that set us apart, our badges, not only do they work out of the box for location, but they also directly link into your access site control system. So HID, any of those standard access control systems we work with out of the box. Accurate from 50 centimeters to 2 meters and sometimes sub 50 centimeters in a smart manufacturing space. We also have a battery that keeps going for up to 5 years. So our badges, one of best in class when it comes to battery life. Our level of certification, a big one for us, we do hold the ATEX Zone 0, 1, and 2 certifications, as well as the ICEX Class 1 Div 1 and Class 1 Div 2 certifications, which gives us the ability to operate in over 70 countries with our current level of certification, essentially our core IP. Having that level of certification got us tied up with Honeywell in our first year. We make up, again, about 75% of their digitized workforce management portfolio and support their network with on-site services, hardware, as well as them white labeling all of our software. We're classified as a BTI, or a business transformation initiative within Honeywell. We're growing as part of their core market to be a core growth initiative, which also puts us on their M&A timeline. About 2/3 of our pipeline comes from Honeywell. The other third comes from outside channels that we go direct to market. We have 12 million under contract currently and a $42 million pipeline to close on this year. Some of our current customers, Irving Oil, using our real-time location system, Ecopetrol in Colombia for our enterprise e-permit to work, as well as we have signed a national contract with the NHL for our digital health passport. To highlight a few things here on the financial summary is this is a bottom-up approach built on our existing contracts. I know you've seen many hockey stick growth charts, but we took a more conservative approach, showing with these conservative numbers, based on these projections, we are EBITDA positive in 2 years. Our forecast for 3.6 million this year, we're on track and already hit over 1 million of that as of last month. And this raise will give us a 12 to 16 month runway. If we just want to reinstate our ask, we have a signed term sheet, a $1.5 million remaining of our $3 million round on the $9 million valuation. Thank you again for your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that presentation.
No problem. Thank you as well. And I'm not sure. No. Okay.
We're gonna open it up to questions. Allison, I saw you take your mic off mute. Go ahead.
Nice to see you, Mike. I've seen you present before, and I do have a question about competitive threat. Like, what are you watching out for? What's the big competitive threat that you're monitoring now?
The biggest competitive threat for us that we see is the LoRa technology that's coming out onto the market. It's becoming way more adopted currently, which is why part of our use of funds, we have a Generation 2 watch coming out that is based on LoRa and GPS backhaul. So we're seeing that as a market trend emerging right now, something that we're very focused on. So that's something we're putting a lot of time and effort in to be able to stay ahead of that curve.
Okay, and just quick, so what does that mean for your business, and you know, how are you, you know, other than just sort of monitoring it, I mean, what differentiation will you have to do to stay abreast?
Well, we're redefining our edge devices. Currently, they're a one-way communication device. Something we're doing to stay ahead is turning that into a two-way communication, so similar to a Fitbit model and a smartwatch. So we've seen a lot of growth in that range, especially in the Middle East and in Latin America. So what we're doing to stay ahead is going to some of the more developing countries that have larger populous bases for industrial workers, so some much larger sites over there. And we're attacking those markets to stay ahead of it rather than focusing on just the North America for our new products. So we're seeing some new players come out with that level of technology, but nothing that causes us too much concern because a lot of our certifications are based on the PCB boards they have. And if somebody wanted to get into that market, they would have to go right back to the drawing board to create their own PCB, go through all the certification, and then launch it, where we've got about a 12 to 18 month step up on that currently.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Hey, Mike, thanks for the presentation. I've got a couple questions. First one is on the relationship with Honeywell. Is that an exclusive deal where basically they will use you guys as a preferred partner for this kind of stuff for all the work that they do in the space similar to this? And as you look at your forecast and your revenue projections, are you including other kinds of those type of partnerships besides Honeywell? Like, how many other strategic partnerships have you baked into that?
So excellent question. And Honeywell definitely represents a large part of our 2/3 of our portfolio right now. We are a BTI within their configuration. So we're non-exclusive, but we are preferred. And because they have invested so much time in the partnership, white labeling all of our products, we are kind of the house brand for Honeywell when it comes to location services. We have, as part of that as well, because we're all about diversifying, we have signed strategic partnerships and a global joint marketing agreement with IBM, as well as we're in discussions with Emerson and Yokogawa currently as well.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Questions from Maria or Diana?
Yeah, thanks so much for that. And so are you thinking about, are there any existing pieces of hardware that are currently being used that can also be adapted with this type of technology for these, location services?
Certainly, and that's one of our big competitive differentiator when it comes to the offshore market, is because we also service brownfield retrofits. So any of the Cisco wireless APs we have direct integration with. The Honeywell One Wireless, obviously integrated there as well. And if you have any existing framework around industrial IoT devices, especially around structured cabling, we can PoE out to power our receivers. So very versatile when it comes to that kind of network architecture, but also looking at some of the traditional, 5G, 4G kind of use cases, we can also backhaul onto those.
Hi, this is Maria from BAMA. Thank you so much for your presentation. May you talk me more about the team, the management team, your experience raising capital, your experience with exits? May I have some words about that?
Certainly. So I'll start with myself, because I know the most about that one. But so triple ticketed tradesman, I cut my teeth in the pipeline game before getting into international turnarounds. So superintendent, turnaround manager for P&H MindPro and Transfield Connectus. but spent a lot of time in that 3 to 5 million man-hour kind of turnaround space. My entrepreneurial background, I've had 7 of my own startups in the past. 2 of those have been successful. The other ones were kind of cabin industry, those kind of things. In terms of complementary teams, surrounding myself with a great team, having CSL Ventures in Houston, Avanaf on the board, that's been phenomenal, as well as our management team. You know, Dave Budvik, our CMO, he comes from a completions and service background, serial entrepreneur with multiple exits. Also have great software development team, Kevin Edwards, enterprise level architecture, as well as a black belt in the AWS framework. So a lot of our architecture is based on AWS backend. And then on an engineering side, we've really partnered up to find top talent. So bringing in specific PNGs with structured cabling backgrounds, it's been a big focus for us over the last year. I mean, we've taken people from Exxon, Singh, Suncor, a few of the others. So really trying to shop the top talent to bring into the team.
Fantastic. And a follow-up of this, which one is the biggest risk that you can see in the short term and which one is in the mid-term?
The biggest which, sorry?
Risk.
Oh, the biggest risk? I'd say the biggest risk for us is the growth globally. So we operate in 34 countries currently. One of the biggest challenges that we have is scalability around travel boundaries right now. It's very hard to grow globally with the Rona lurking around. So that's one piece. And I'd say the more longer term risk is we're really positioning ourselves within that hazardous area environment. So the biggest risk for us is just getting in front of the clients and doing those brownfield retrofits. Greenfield's a different story. Of course, that's 2 to 3 years out, but the brownfield is a much different sales cycle. So I'd say that would be the risk there.
All right, we've got time for a couple more questions. One more question.
Got another one. What's the average contract value per customer? And when you guys are selling, who are you selling to within these organizations to basically get sign off on the contracts? Is it at a corporate level or is it at a field level where you guys are basically selling to each site specifically?
So I'll say it's a healthy mix of both. To answer your first question, our sales cycle normally goes in 3 stages. So we have an initial inquiry and a pilot. It usually takes between 1 to 3 months, including the engineering work. Then once we sign up a successful pilot with the KPIs, we'll move into a more larger scale installation. That usually consists of another 3 to 6 month sales cycle with engineering. Those check sizes between first pilot, we normally land between the 250 to 300,000. Second stage of the sales cycle, when we expand, and I'll use a use case hereafter, that usually is between the 800,000 to the 1.5. And then if we're doing a site-wide installation, depending on the size of the site, take a look at one of the ones we're doing here in Canada. That's about a $12 million project per site. So it's a longer sales cycle to get to a full site installation. We are doing a few of those right now with our pipeline having 12 million on the contract this year. But yeah, normally you're between 6 to 8 months for a full sales cycle to get to that. And in terms of how we get into that, whether we go through procurement, corporate, or site-based, we'll normally start on the health and safety piece on a site level and then work up, depending if the customer has a digital transformation strategy, then we would go to the corporate office and partner with them for that kind of enterprise level strategy.
Awesome. So that's all the time we have for questions, but you just mentioned something. I know you're based in Canada, but you have a big effort to move towards Houston. Maybe you could talk about that. Your lead investors are in Houston, is that right?
They are. CSL, we've got CSL and Texas Halo Fund on board in Houston, and toot to the CSL team and Halo Fund, of course. But yeah, so we've just secured our office space and we are going to be boots on the ground in June, July. So very happy to see that. And turn my purple Canadian skin tan, hopefully. That's how cold it is up here. But no, really looking forward to it. So June, July we'll be local.
Awesome. I love to hear it. Love to see it.
Okay,
welcome.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate the questions and your time. And yeah, look forward to it.
Thank you so much. All right, next up, we've got Stephen from Conversifi. Are you in the room, Stephen? I see your screen's coming.
Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you now.
Okay, excellent. And I'm going to share my screen and let's just see if that works as well.
Perfect.
Okay, can you see my screen?
You can see it now, yes.
Terrific. Okay, my name is Steve Krubiner. I am the founder and CEO of Conversifi. And along with my co-founder, Kate Liberty, I want to thank you for your time and consideration this afternoon. Let me quickly introduce myself. My background is in international conflict resolution and cross-cultural communication. I actually spent 15 years working on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And one of the most common themes that I saw throughout my time working on the conflict has been the impact that speaking another language has on breaking down barriers and building bridges. I've also had tremendous opportunities myself because of the languages that I've learned. For example, in 2006, my colleague came into my office in Jerusalem and said, "Hey, Steve, we need you to go to Madrid for 6 months. The King of Spain and the Spanish Foreign Ministry are hosting an Arab-Israeli peace conference, and you're our only guy who speaks Spanish, Hebrew, Arabic, and English. So you'll run point." And that turned out to be one of the most pivotal moments in my career. Speaking other languages opens doors for people around the world. It creates social mobility, and it brings us together. By helping people learn a language at Conversifi, our mission is to connect the world in conversation. Now, some of you who are familiar with language learning may be thinking to yourselves right now, the language space is really crowded with tons of players. Why do we need another language company? What's the problem? The problem is that learners are spending $90 billion a year to learn to speak another language, and the industry is failing to deliver on what they want. Why? Because it's impossible to become conversational in another language without practicing with native speakers. So what we've done at Conversifi is decided to enter a crowded market and turn that into an advantage for us. Our go-to-market strategy is integrating with and enhancing the value of the rest of the players in our space and growing through B2B2C channel partnerships with them. Conversifi connects language learners with native speakers for on-demand language practice and cultural exchange over video chat. Learners search for a native speaking coach by selecting a language, topic, and country, and then our matching algorithm finds them the best available coach. We provide the native speaker with prompts to keep the conversation at the right level for the learner, as well as on the right topic. These modules are what enable us to easily complement our partners' curricula because they match the vocabulary, grammar, and themes that our partners use. The modules are also a major differentiator between us and our competition because they enable us to maintain a higher quality of conversations and also to scale much more easily. The sessions are recorded, which give users the chance to review their progress over time, and it gives us several natural language processing data opportunities down the road. We decided to seed our platform in higher ed, where universities build Conversifi into their program as a credit-bearing component of the curricula. Higher ed is a smart beachhead for us for several reasons. As a platform, we can lock in our demand side and forecast how many students we'll have per semester, and then focus on matching that on the supply side. And speaking of supply side, we can also recruit our supply side of coaches from the same pool of students. So for example, if you're studying Spanish at UT and using Conversifi, you can also work for us as an English language coach, helping students at a university in Mexico, for example, on Conversifi. There are also great channel partners within higher ed and relatively little competition, none of which is set up to scale the way we are. There are 3 trends that make now a terrific moment for Conversifi. First, advances in video chat technology, which we're witnessing as we do this, as these pitches today. Second, COVID has accelerated the urgency of online education and created a spike in demand for Conversifi. And third, the emergence of sharing economies and on-demand solutions make Conversifi more relevant than ever. To date, we've had over 100 universities build Conversifi into their curricula, including UT Austin, UT San Antonio, Texas Tech, Texas A&M, the University of Dallas, and Texas State. We're expecting to have had 165 by the end of this year. We've had over 100,000 sessions already with 30,000 lifetime users to date, and we expect that to go up to over 45,000 this year. And last year we did around 375,000 in recognized revenue, and we're looking to grow that to 840,000 this year. We are currently partnering with 2 of the top 4 publishers in foreign language in the US, Pearson and Cengage, and we're also working with the top 2 distributors of digital content, RedShelf and VitalSource, to make access codes available to students through their bookstores, as well as to have Conversifi charged directly to students' tuition. including using financial aid to cover the cost. We're about to raise a seed round of funding to help us solve our biggest problem, keeping up with the current demand. It will also help us grow our integration capabilities as we look to grow beyond higher ed. We're looking for smart partners who want to join us on this exciting journey. And I thank you again for your time and consideration.
Awesome, Stephen. Great presentation. If you could pull your screen down, I'll turn it over to the judges for questions.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Stephen. I'd love to learn more about kind of two parts, and I guess it's a two-part question. One, how do you manage quality control of the the mentors or the speakers as you scale? And then two, can you dive into a little bit on your average users' time spent on the platform / their LTV worth?
Sure. Thanks for the question. So in terms of managing quality, there are a few things that we do. Coaches need to go through a training video and take a training quiz to basically show us that they've learned the lessons and that they know exactly what we're looking for in a coach, and sign a coaching agreement. And also there's peer feedback after every single session. So if, and it goes two ways, as the learner and as the coach, you provide feedback to the other person, which is great. We really believe in the power of peer feedback, and it also helps us make sure that that coaches are receiving a high enough score to meet our standards. So that's one way. The other way is by providing those prompts, those modules to the native speaking coaches, we're able to make sure that coaches are following, or at least have a curriculum to follow. So it's not sort of at their whim to just do whatever they want. Of course, they can have free-form conversations with their partners if that's what the partners want. But we do have a curriculum that they can follow, which is different than what anyone else is sort of doing right now. In terms of the amount of time that folks are spending on Conversifi, generally schools are building in 6 to 10 sessions on average as a requirement as part of the curriculum. So students are generally doing between 6 to 10 sessions. A session is 15 minutes long. And so that's if they're learning only. Then they're welcome to do more sessions beyond that. But that's the sweet spot is between 6 and 10. And they're all doing those 6 to 10 as learners, and they're doing a similar amount as coaches if that's what they're interested in doing. The lifetime value, we sort of look at the universities as the customers in this case, because they're the ones that are refilling every single year those seats for university students right now. So we're seeing the same seats filled year after year, although we're able to obviously grow within a university. But it's how long the university sticks with us. Universities, once you have them, are very hard to lose. I say that with deep respect for our customers, because I know how important it is for us to deliver quality, but universities generally like to stick with things that are working. So we're very proud and fond of our customers, and glad that we have such good partnerships, but I'll also just say that it's a sticky relationship, and we're very happy with that.
Great, thank you.
Awesome, Allison?
Yeah, the answer to that question actually dovetails right into my question, which was really more about the sales model. And it sounds like from that answer, your sales really is more B2B, and with these other language curriculum, tools, online, different partners, Rosetta Stone, et cetera. Do you also have a direct to consumer model? And if you could just explain more about how the revenue model works.
Sure. Our plan is to really focus on a B2B, or we consider it a B2B to C, because the end user is the one that's paying in most cases. And so right now with universities, the way that works is we sell to the university, but then they make the decision, should the students be using this as part of the curriculum, and then the students pay. When we get beyond higher ed, let's say we're partnering with a Duolingo or a Rosetta Stone or a Babbel, one of the language apps. The model would probably be, again, that we're making the partnerships with the apps, and then their users are purchasing Conversifi probably through the partner, not through us directly. And then it's a revenue share. So our real model is to go B2B to C. We provide the on-demand platform, and our partners provide the curriculum to which we match, as well as the distribution. Now, that doesn't mean that we will not prevent, if a consumer wants to directly come to Conversifi, they certainly can do that. But that's not our strategy at this point in the company.
And is the price variable significantly from in these different channels? I mean, what does a typical end user pay for the session?
So right now we're only in higher ed, and we're exploring opportunities beyond higher ed and having some serious conversations about that. But in the live market, we're only in higher ed, and the average American student is paying $35 a semester, or about $70 a year, depending on how the school is set up. So if you're talking about UCLA as an example, where it's a quarter school, we could have students who are taking 4 quarters. So it varies, but on average, they're paying about $35 a semester in a standard 2-semester school. And it does vary. Some schools, are building 22 sessions in a semester. Some are building 6, but again, on average, it's 6 to 10, and we're seeing about $35 to $42 for an American student a semester.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Stephen, I have a question on the other side of the marketplace for the coaches or the language speakers. What's in it for them to sign up for the platform? Do they get some sort of revenue share based on the fee per session, or do they sign up and get X amount of sessions per year that they have line of sight to? What's in it for that side of the market?
Great question. So most of our coaches right now are paid in-app credit. So and 99% of our coaches are also learners on Conversifi. So they're learning Spanish or French, and they're coaching English, as an example. And so they're earning in-app credit that they can then use for the language, toward the languages that they're learning. We also do have coaches that are what we call paid coaches. And to go to Diana's first question, that actually there's a higher screening process to become a paid coach, where we actually will, you have to have coached a certain number of sessions before we allow you to do that. And we watch video recordings of your sessions to make sure that you meet our standards. And then you can become a paid coach and actually cash out that in-app credit for money. And the price that we pay is variable depending on the market. So we pay a coach in Mexico differently than we pay a coach in the US, differently than a coach in Spain. So it's based on the market price.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Maria, I want to give you the opportunity to ask a question if you have one.
Yeah, just one, and a short one. So you mentioned that you were in seed round. Which ones are the terms of your round right now?
We have not established terms yet. We're still talking to some potential lead investors. We're looking to raise $2 million, and our preference is to do it as a priced round.
Do you have previous investors, previous rounds?
We do. We raised $950,000 in a previous round on a SAFE, simple agreement for future equity, and so we do have previous investors from that, and and would be very happy to convert them into in a priced round now.
Yeah, Houston investors might not do a SAFE, but they definitely know what it is. Awesome. Well, that was a really great presentation. Any last questions? We have a couple more minutes. Allison?
A question about the policing of the platform. I mean, I guess, there is some risk of, if you've got, students who are coaching other students, is it becoming a pickup type scenario? Like, how do you police it to make sure that there's not, anything going on the platform that you might not want to have, or anything for safety for people participating?
It's a great question. I think first and foremost, the fact that it's virtual already makes it more safe than students going off and finding real life partners to practice language with. So I think teachers recognize that, and that's something that's helpful. But we have certain standards, a code of conduct that the students are bound by. So they're not allowed to ask for each other's contact information on a session. They're not allowed to make comments about the appearance of their partners. If they do that, they'll be kicked off. Also, our learners have a no risk opportunity to hit the red button and hang up a call if they ever feel uncomfortable. So they know that they're not going to lose their session. We'll give them another credit. There's no issue with that. We want them to always feel comfortable. And I think the biggest policing factor is that all of our sessions are recorded. So if anybody does anything, we easily have the opportunity to go and see it. It's not a he said, she said situation where no one knows what happened. We can just go watch the recording. All students in the student ecosystem, so while we're still talking about higher ed, all students are bound by the code of conduct of their universities. So if there were an issue, they would also be accountable to their university conduct and rules and regulations. So that also really helps us. We have surprisingly not had any real issues. There have been, some lost in translation moments and real learning moments, but we haven't had anything that we see as an intentional inappropriate behavior. That doesn't mean that one day we won't. I can't possibly imagine actually at scale that there won't be anyone that doesn't ever do anything inappropriate, but we have all of the mechanisms in place to deal with it and deal with it quickly.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So, thank you. That was a very good question.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. I'm currently taking Spanish, so I'd love to try this out sometime.
Terrific. I'd love to have you try it out. I'll email you a code.
Awesome. I love it.
Okay.
Great. Well, that's all that we have for the first 5 companies. We're going to take a short 30-minute break. So if you are an attendee, head over to the networking sessions. If you are a judge, please stay here. We're going to network internally here in this Zoom. But if you're an attendee, please head over to the networking sessions and please come back and be ready to watch the next 5 pitches at 3:30. Thanks so much to all our presenters 1 through 5 and to our judges so far. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.